Okay, I think we're up. Think we are up here. Okay, welcome to my live stream. Hello, great ones. This this was a mess. I almost didn't make it. I really, literally almost did not make it because of my perfectionism, my ADHD, and all the things that come with me, right? But I'm pushing myself to be seen, to be visible this year. I have a podcast, so I'm very, very proud of myself for, having guests on my podcast and being able to show up. Okay. And this will be the first of many. I'm going to push myself. I really, really am. I'm not really good at being consistent with social media. But I'm going to try. Okay. I'm going to try. So that's my best effort. But I am proud of myself for doing those interviews that I've done. And if you haven't seen them, go to my channel. Okay. Subscribe and look at my podcast. Okay. The visual videos are the ones that I have of the guests that I've had on the show. Okay. So please, please, please check that out. This one gonna be kind of rocky, okay, until I get in the mix of everything and my perfectionism doesn't take me out. Because it's taken me out several times. But today, I actually have a plan. Okay. Today, I want to talk to you all about knowing yourself. Okay. Because I feel like if you don't know who you are, you'll pick the wrong life every single time. You'll pick the wrong path. You'll pick the wrong destination. You'll pick the wrong relationships, career, way of life if you don't know yourself. And astrology, even though I'm a former therapist, has made some big changes in my life. It's given me clarity, and I want to share that with you all. And I can show you better than I can tell you. Okay. Um, I'm currently a life coach, and I like to incorporate astrology, numerology, Chinese astrology, human design, all those esoteric sciences, because part of the drive, right, is I'm a Black woman, and I'm very, very, very multifaceted. And psychology is based in a cisgendered white male gaze, so it doesn't often account for these different subsets of humanity that matters, right? And struggle as well, because we're human. And if you're human in this world, okay, based off of how things are designed right now, just having that framework in psychology and it not being as inclusive as it should be based off of your cultural circumstance, it can put you at a deficit, right? But found a little loophole, okay? With me being a life coach, I can grab all these different things to help me better understand my client, to help my client better understand themselves, and help me guide them to a space that is beneficial to them living their best life. Okay. So we're going to start small here. And I want to talk about your big three. All right. And this is for the people that feel like they're lost. They don't know who they are, right? These are for the people who have done everything by the book but don't feel fulfilled. This is for the people who don't know if they're on the right path, okay? And by the end of this, you'll know what your big three is, how to find it, and what it's trying to teach you about yourself. Okay? You will. So stay tuned and comment below if you know what your big three is, if you know what I'm talking about. Okay? Comment below and I will do my best to respond to the first couple, if any comments on this live on my small YouTube channel. That will change once I become more consistent, but I will do my best to respond and, tell you a little brief synopsis, all right, of what that means. So let's start here. Now, most people, what they know is their sun sign, okay? I'm a Pisces. That means I was born in February, and usually you start a zodiac sun sign um, based off of where the sun is at the day and time of your birth, right? The month of your birth, mainly the month and the date. So, how astrology works is you can easily just Google and put your birth date in and put that zodiac sign. How that works is usually starts between the 20th, 21st, 22nd of a month and goes to the next month and ends around the same time of that next month. Okay? And I believe what is it? What do I have here for Pisces, my particular sign? February 19th to March 20th. Okay? February 20th, February 19th to March 20th. And if you're at the beginning, you're like on the cusp. That's a whole different thing. But most people, they know their sun sign. And your sun sign is your identity. Okay? Your core ego is what your sun sign is. Right? So that usually takes over. Okay, when people get to know you, that usually takes over, takes front stage, right? Now, your moon sign is your emotional needs. And you can kind of, if you're following along, you can kind of guess where I'm going with this. Okay. Your moon sign, uh, when they have that saying, um, when there's a lot of things going on in the world at the time, and people say, must be a full moon out tonight. Right? It rules your emotions. And the moon is based off of where the moon was at the time of your birth. And I believe your moon sign and your rising sign, which we'll talk about next, I believe it shifts every 2 hours, something like that, right? So, in order to have an accurate moon sign, you do need your birth time, but you can kind of get away with it if you have like knowledge, or you can find somewhere where the moon was during that day, because it usually doesn't change that day. It usually stays the same for like a whole month or so, but it's not like the months when we talk about the 1st to the 31st or the 1st to the 28th or 29th or whatever the case may be. It's not like that, right? The moon has its own phases, but you can kind of get away with finding out what your moon sign is if you know what day, right? And if you do your astrology chart, if you go on any of these websites and look up your astrology chart, you'll be able to find your moon sign. Most of the time it'll be accurate, right? But it all depends, okay? And what you absolutely, oh, I have a moon sign in Cancer. But what you absolutely need that birth time for sure, if you want to know your rising sign, like you, and some astrologers, they're really, really good at trying to figure out your rising sign, okay? And your rising sign is your approach and your attraction field, okay? And my rising sign is in the sign of Scorpio, okay? So what that essentially means, when people see me, I can appear as a Scorpio. I can appear secretive. I could be magnetic, right? I could be you kind of don't know what you're looking at. Mysterious, right? And that has a whole nother animal based off of that mask. But your mask is basically what you chose as your armor when you incarnated into this plane, into this lifetime. Okay. That's what that means. And if you have any confusion about this, feel free to comment below and let me know. Okay. And I will explain it to you further or in the best way that I can. And if you can help me out and you have a better way of explaining this to people, comment below, please. Help out your fellow squad. If you're watching my video and you make it through this whole entire live, yes, you are part of the people that want to know more about themselves and are willing to do the work, are willing to use whatever tools they have access to, no matter what, to live their best life, right? And I'm so proud of you for doing that. I really am. And I'm grateful that I can be a part of your journey. Okay? I really am. But so when it comes to my big three, right? There's certain things based off of the personality. And sidebar, I'm all water. Okay. Pisces, Sun, Cancer, Moon, right? Scorpio, rising. My big three is all water. So I'm a very emotionally in tune type person. I am a very nurturing. I'm very when it comes to the arts, right? Like you can see my hair, you can see my setup. Okay. I also was a dancer. I got my undergrad in theater and dance, and my master's is in psychology, right? Um, you kind of see that, all of that encompassing who I am. And the interesting part was that I became these things, or I was these things, I was this way before I knew anything about astrology, right? And the knowing your big three or doing your astrology chart and finding out these different parts of you really, really, really do help you get confirmation. Okay, right? I've always been intuitive and didn't know what the word meant, but I have examples. Like one of them that I like to use is my mom told me that when I was younger, okay, I was very, very quiet. All right. And my oldest brother will tell you that. Really, all of my family members will tell you I'm very, very introverted. Okay. Right. And remember how I talked about that mask, right? Um, the mysterious, the protective. Scorpios can be very, very protective. You don't know what you're looking at. The observant, the analytical, right? Trying to, read the room and see what am I looking at? Like, trying to discern, right? and make sure it's safe. Okay. Right. But still people want to come up to me and find out, well, who is she? Like, and um that story that I was talking about when I was younger, my mom said I would make women cry. Like I would make the older people cry because I think I would. What would happen was I would hear the conversation, I'd read the room, And then, that person might come up to me like, hey, how you doing, little girl? And I just read in their rights completely. And a lot of times my intuitiveness, it doesn't really come from, um, it comes from the analytical part, but the other part is I'm saying what people are not saying, because people are like beating around the bush. And um that's one example, right? Of how my Scorpio rising shows up. Okay. And then me being a Pisces, I'm very, very empathetic. Well, all, the water signs, they can be very, very, very empathetic, right? They can be very charismatic, right? That's that Cancer, that Cancer moon. But your moon sign, it represents your emotional needs, right? And your moon can basically take on the characteristics of whatever that zodiac main personality characteristics, but when it comes to an emotional sense. So when you think about Cancer is about stability, it's about creativity, it's about nurturing. It represents the mother when it comes to the zodiac chart, right? And emotionally intuitive, of course, because it's a water sign. It goes with the waves, the flow of the room. What is everybody feeling, right? There was an experiment that was done that we learned about when I was doing getting my master's in counseling psychology, where they took a bottle of water, right? And they put it in a room. They put the bottle of water in two separate rooms. One room was full of angry people, basically, right? And the other room was, happy go lucky, fun loving people. Well, at the time, they were in a positive emotional state. Okay. Now, the room where they had the water bottle, okay, the angry room, it actually bubbled up, right? It began to expand over time. While the room that had the happy people, okay, it stayed the same. Look it up. It's a real research. Your energy shifts. Okay. It's scientific. There's scientific proof of this research happening, right? But you already know, if you upset the room, like say if you're in the room or at a bar at a party where one team, if the majority of the people go for one team and they're upset, guess what? The whole room gonna be upset. That's how that goes. Right? That don't kill my vibe, that's a real thing. Okay. One person can really, like, based off of their energy and their power, okay, they can upset the whole place. And sometimes you can, when they talk about like a person feeling lonely in a room full of people, that's the other effect too. Like if that person is used to dimming their light and suffering in silence, that person can go like such a long time not being acknowledged because everybody else around them is living their own life and not paying attention to them. And because they don't have that power, which usually starts at home, they don't have that power. If they don't feel safe enough to express themselves, they could find themselves in situations to where they know how to silence their stuff, but it doesn't, for a lot of people, it's either going to spill out on the person that did not hurt them, or it's going to attack them physically, right? And that's just how it works. Okay. But that's just from my own experience. Like I've just always been the intuitive type. I've always been the nurturing type. When I was on a dance team and we had to audition for our dances in college, we had to audition for every piece that someone had choreographed. Even if we choreographed it, we had to audition. You know that when I created dances, okay, I wanted everybody to make it. So I still would make parts of my dance that I felt like anybody on the team, regardless of their level, could do, right? Not the best. I had to learn the hard way that didn't look it wasn't gonna look good. And you're not really pushing people or challenging them to elevate their skills if you just include everybody. And part of that is me being on the cusp of Pisces and Aquarius. And Aquarius is an all-inclusive, okay, type of person, right? But you know, the nurturer in me. Okay. But you usually don't get to see my emotions because I'm introverted and I have that Scorpio mask. You usually do not get to see my emotions unless you get to know me, right? And that's that moon sign. That's the home. It also represents the home, right? How I like my home. I like my home to be a very cancerian type of atmosphere, like nurturing, healing, vibrant, right? Creative is how I like that. Okay. Um, but this is also why I can't do shallow people. This is why safety matters. Okay. And this is why discernment for me is non-negotiable. Okay. Like I can't do the fake. It's not my thing. It's not my style. Like at all. So if you have any other placements with me, after you watch this live, if you have any of the placements that I have, let me know. Right? Let me see here. What else is there that I wanted to teach you about your big three? Okay, so remember when I said if you don't know yourself, you can choose the wrong path. Okay, so when you ignore your needs, you don't just pick the wrong person, you pick the wrong life. Every single time, you basically betray yourself when you don't know yourself. And of course, I'm not just talking about astrologically, but that can astrologically can really, really help, even psychologically, right? There could be things that based off of your childhood that you could have normalized that is actually toxic, right? So you want to make sure that you have a great understanding. You learn some self-awareness. Hi, Hi, Mariana. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, if you, because the truth of the matter is hurt people do hurt people. But if there's a chance for you to kind of figure out, all right, why do I keep attracting the same type of person? Or why do I keep attracting the same type of vibe or the same circumstances? And I don't like it. Like it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel at home to me. Right? When you don't know what to do, that's what leads to the depression taking over. That's what leads to failed relationships. That what leads to, not liking your job, not knowing that you could dream better, not knowing that you can have more, not knowing that you could change the whole trajectory of your life. Okay. So if you don't know anything about astrology, find out what your big three is and just see. You have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain when you figure out what your big three is. Right? That's how it works. Let me see here. But yeah, that's how that goes. Speaking from my own experience, okay, I had to find out the hard way that just doing stuff that made me look like a good person based off of societal standards Did not work for me. Okay. It made me unhappy. It stressed me out. Not to say that, even if you do find your right path, or even if you do find where you're supposed to, who you're supposed to be in this life, or understand yourself, or do the work on yourself, that there ain't still work to be done, but it gets a little easier, right? You get to build that support system. You get to, uh, at a time when you forget who you are, because you often will, when you face obstacles, you can revert back to the studies of yourself, right? To get you back on the right path. And sometimes we need that, right? Sometimes I need to remember that my high school dance team was almost terminated completely because my coach was leaving, but I still wanted to dance, right? And I remember I went to every classroom I could find, talked to every teacher that I could find, until I found somebody that was willing to coach that dance team. Okay, I did that. Right? Very, very proud of myself for doing that, because when nobody about to tell me that I wasn't gonna dance for basketball season. Okay. That's a part of me. That's a part of my life, right? But you need, stories about yourself, okay? Uh in that darkness, when everything is telling you you should go one way, but your heart is saying you should go another, right? Knowing these things about yourself, being self aware, really, really processing your journey, retelling the stories the right way that support you and what you're trying to do in this life, and give yourself purpose, is extremely, extremely helpful. And everybody deserves that, right? So, back to the big three, right? Your sun sign, what it's trying to teach you is, your sun sign is trying to teach you who you're trying to become, right? Okay. So when you figure out what your sun sign is, I want you to write down this sentence. My sun is trying to teach me to become, right? And you fill in the blank. And what you do is you look up the personalities of that particular sign. So if I use myself as an example, my sun sign is trying to teach me to become um, somebody that dreams big, somebody that is intuitive, that is caring, that changes lives for the better, right? That sees the glass is always half full. Okay. There are dark sides to each sign now, but gonna take baby steps with this one. Not to say you're supposed to embody the dark sides, because there is very dark side, especially people. The running joke of Pisces is that we live in a dream world. Okay, we live in a fantasy world. We're not realistic at all. Okay, yes, but guess what? I wouldn't have changed so many lives for the better if I wasn't the one saying, okay, friend, or okay, client, you know, let's go. You say you want to fly. Let me open this window right here and let's go. We're gonna go together. Not literally, but that's just the metaphor I like to use. Okay. So my son is teaching me to become, and you fill in the blank. Okay, whatever those characteristics. And if you don't know what those characteristics are, you can always look it up, right? You can listen to my podcast. I'm sure I've talked about it before. Okay, go to my playlist on my podcast, subscribe to the channel. I'm always, 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 always teaching and educating to be able to enlighten people. Okay, but that part, my moon, this prompt, my moon needs blank to thrive, right? My moon needs blank to thrive. And you fill in that blank with the characteristics, okay, the characteristics of that particular moon sign. Myself as an example, I talked about Cancer. So my moon needs safety to thrive. My moon needs nurturing to thrive. My moon needs stability to thrive. Okay? I do. I need a routine. I need structure. I need niceness. Do not, okay? This is one thing that, I'm so grateful I'm not in corporate America no more. But this is one thing. Some people feel like the only way to get somebody to do something is to be brutal with them or to be harsh with them or to be hard. Don't do that with me. It's not gonna work. Okay, that don't work for me. Sorry. Some people it does, right? Some people need that, you better do this like this, or you know, the fear. They need that fear put in them. They need to be talked too harsh. They feel like they need to be talked too harsh. So that's the only way they're gonna get it, or they not, or if you're too nice, they're not gonna take you seriously. There's a thin line between that, right? But do not come at me hard because I'm gonna push back. Come at me with some sense, with some nurturing capabilities, okay? In order for me to thrive, right? And remember that moon sign is your emotions. So I need that safety, that stability, the knowing that, hey, you really are there for me before I open up and show you how I truly feel, right? So whatever that moon sign is, that's what that means. You take any zodiac sign, because not all of us have the same moon sign, which you'll see, right? Some people don't know that, but not all of us have the same moon sign. You might even have a different moon sign than your siblings, your parents, right? Some people got a different moon sign than their twins. Depending on when the moon shifted. Okay, it just all depends. But that emotionally, how can I feel emotionally on the inside, feel safe, right? And then third, what we have is my rising. Okay, this is the prompt. My rising keeps attracting blank until I learn blank. Okay. Okay. So mine is in Scorpio. This is transparent. I did not mean to be this transparent on here and let y'all into all my business. Okay. So my rising sign, okay, keeps attracting danger until I learn how to protect myself. That's what I'll say. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My rising sign keeps attracting danger because my rising sign is in Scorpio until I learn to protect myself, right? So that is my, my fill in the blank. And you find out what your rising sign you have. Remember, I said you have to have that time. You have to have that time in order to know what your rising sign is. Okay, you have to. I know for us, because I'm, Canadian originally. I'm an American citizen now, but I was born in Canada, and I they don't for a lot of people from different countries, they don't put the birth time on there. Like you got to call and find out, or hopefully your mom knows. Hopefully a parent knows uh what your birth time, or a relative knows what your birth time is, or around that ballpark, right? Now, it doesn't mean that your chart isn't still useful, but it'll just be very, 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 very helpful. And not to say that people can't figure it out, because there are people that do it's something called recertification. I think that's what it's called, but they basically ask you a series of questions, and people and some astrologers are trained to ask you a certain series of questions, and based off of the time that it happened in your life, right, the stage of your life, they can like figure out what your birth time is. It's a very tedious process, so not a lot of astrologers do that, but 9 times out of 10 it's pretty accurate, right? And those that have the same mask, right, which is that rising sign, if you see them, we kind of look alike. We kind of do. Like I have nieces and nephews that have that same Scorpio rising, and when you first meet them, yes, they look mysterious. You don't know if they like you, if they or if they do. They're observant. You may think that them not coming up to you or saying hi, how are you doing? As soon as they walk in the room, you think that, oh, okay, maybe they just don't like. No, 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 no. They're trying to make sure that they're safe. Okay, and that is our defense mechanism. All right, but what else did I want to say? Oh, I did want to say that I did want to say. Sorry, my ADHD. I apologize. Oh, there are people that may have lost their birth certificate. Okay. For you people that do not have your birth time and maybe nobody remembers, you don't have it written anywhere, try calling the hospital that you were born at. Okay. There's a pretty good chance that they'll give you your birth time. And then for those of you who need another birth certificate or had to make copies of a birth certificate and the time wasn't on there, you can ask them to send you the copy that has your birth time on there, or you can tell them to list the birth time on there because most hospitals still have record. They have that time of death and that time of birth, right? Now, if you're in a foreign country, I know that part might be difficult. Okay, that part might be difficult, but make sure you utilize any resource that you can. Not to say again that your astrology chart can't be useful and that it doesn't have helpful information. It still will, but you'll have a little more helpful information if you know what time you were born. Okay. Um, but yeah, so I can't believe I got through this live. I'm proud of myself. I truly, truly am. I did my thing. And I thank y'all for tuning in. And again, if you're tuning in, please, please, please comment below. Okay, comment below and let me know what your big three is. Okay. A quick way that you can find out is go to astro.com or you can go to AstroSeek. All right. And put in that information if you have that birth time. Okay. If you have that birth time, give this video a thumbs up. And if you comment, I'm going to try my best to respond to every single comment and give you like a brief description. Okay. Right. Or, I'll try to respond to every comment, whatever you have to ask. And if you would like for me to give you a more in-depth reading on your big three and how you can utilize it, okay, I got you. The link will be in the description. Okay, you can book a big three reading with me. And I promise you, it's going to change your life. It truly, truly is. It really, really is. You'll know what type of gifts you have and how you can utilize them. Okay. And then also, I am a life coach and I give coaching to individuals, families, couples, and co-parents. Okay. And it can even be between best friends. It can even be between people who are about to get a divorce and really want to have like a peaceful divorce. That is a thing. Okay. I got you. Sign up for a free consultation. That link will also be in the description or pinned to the comments as well. Okay. And I think that's it. Subscribe to the channel, okay? While I'm pushing myself to be seen, because that's part of that. That is part of my issue. I'm a Pisces, And I'm a perfectionist. Don't think this just because we like to dream big that we're not perfectionists. Okay, them dreams be perfect. That's the problem. They'll be perfect, and it kind of, sometimes puts us in an analysis paralysis type of situation. All right, but I'm gonna try to go live every other Tuesday. And then on the weeks that I don't go live, you guys can check on my podcast. All right. Even though podcast is, I'm going to take a break when I get to the 80th episode, take a 6 week break. Okay. And then I'll come back. But subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Comment below your big three. Okay. Or comment below how your big three has helped you. Or comment below whether you get along with the people in your big three. Because that is something that I struggle with. I have great conversations with Scorpios and who is it? Scorpios and Cancers. Great conversations with them, right? But for some reason, I don't get along with them. So that also, take a look at you once you find out what your big three see. If you could look at the people around you or have been in your life, so you can find out what their sun sign is, and see, okay, wonder why we butt heads. Because oftentimes you butt heads with people who you might have some similarities with, and you might need to work through that because the system says, subconscious is like, I want nobody thinking I'm like this, right? So let me get away from you because you bring the worst out of me. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be on the dark side. That's what that sometimes that interaction is. Okay, but okay, yay me! I did that. I did that. Very, very proud of myself. Okay. I'm proud of y'all for being here. Thank you. All right. Comment below. Give this live a thumbs up. Share it with somebody who wants a brief explanation of a big three. I hope I explained it to the best of my ability. And if I didn't, and if you're watching this live, like I said before, please comment below and give an even better explanation if you can. But this won't be the only time. But thank y'all for tuning in. And I'm gonna end this live. Okay. Bye y'all. See you next time.